Welcome back to Me and She's podcast, This Authoritarian Life, where we seek to crush any opposition to our wellness and mental peace. This week we are joined by friend of podcast, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi.
I am glad to be.
Friendship is important. Did you see news of Taylor Swift and Blake Lively? I mean, wow. She says she likes her friends cancelled. Not every friendship has no limits.
Oh, facts.
Take Donald Trump, for example. He recently sanctioned my oil companies.
Yeah, pretty crazy.
Like what? He thinks this will hurt me? He thinks it's gonna stop you guys, my boys, from buying? But of course it will not. I said, but of course it will not. Guys,
it is complicated.
Complicated? 3-day invasion that lasts 3 years is complicated. Supporting your friends is not.
We don't want to get dragged into this legal stuff.
Legal stuff? You guys are just like Taylor. Unbelievable. Have I ever abandoned a friend in need?
Señor Putin, here is Maduro.
Who?
Chamo, I need your help. The gringos, they are going to try to kill me, to throw me from my power, to shave my mustache, to take my oil. They think it will be easy like Noriega, pero te lo juro que no, que Venezuela es un país orgulloso de 30 millones de people. Yes to peace, no to war. Yes to peace, no to...
Okay, so next week we will be discussing importance of releasing ourselves from those who drain our peace.
Public Somewhere in the bowels of the city that never sleeps,
Kevin McCullough, radio host with Salem Media,
is a man also not sleeping.
Syndicated radio talk show host Kevin McCullough.
And that guy would like a word with you.
Many of you know him as Vostradamus.
Of course that Kevin show is going to be great. The only thing that could be greater, of course, would be that Donald show. We don't have that, so we have that Kevin show.
Featuring the music of Dick Tunney and the Dream in Color Orchestra. Straight ahead on this edition, Mark McKijah, an energy executive, talks nuclear. Dr. Monique Yohanon, a health expert on the subsidies for Obamacare. Jill Homan, tariffs and SCOTUS. Also, Brenda Hafera, woke history and travel. Sketch comedy by the puppet regime, Al Berry and Nick Peterson. And Cody Johnson, back in the spotlight. And now, from Times Square, where Mayor-elect Mamdani will rename New Yorkistan, taxes gas and bans common sense, but will blame Texas. Here's Kevin!
Welcome in, everybody. Welcome to the weekend. We've got a lot to get to on today's show. A huge show. Some fun stuff. If you are a fan of American history, we have something specially for you. If you're a fan of getting the shutdown taken care of, we got some info on that as well. Dr. Yohanon's going to be back with us, and Brenda Hafera is going to be with us from the Heritage Foundation. This new tool that they're rolling out, it is so cool. A lot of people don't know this. Our major historic sites in part of our country, you know, up in New York and Trenton and Boston and DC and some of these places, have been overtaken with woke ideology. And like you can go to the James Madison historic sites and they won't tell you anything about James Madison. Like it's the craziest thing. So what has happened is they've commissioned this new tool that you're going to be able to use when you plan trips and when you go to places that are of historical significance for American history, and you're going to be able to learn about the actual history, and you're going to be able to rate what the information was at your tour and put it in there, and then they're going to keep track of, you know, the less accurate places. And so you can rate someplace an A or an F, and you can have whatever. It's the coolest thing. But stick around, because Brenda's going to be with us. She's going to explain all of it. It's a big project for her. Very proud of the work that she's done on it. And I'm I write that Passport Life newsletter. It's all about travel. We're going to feature some of what they've done, because I feel like this is so necessary for our culture. All right. One last reminder. Two reminders, and then we're going to get on with the rest of my monologue. starting November 24th, if you have not yet heard, it's just been the words just kind of been leaking out there a little bit. If you have one of the radio stations that carry the Eric Metaxas show, my very dear friend who is no longer doing a radio show. He's doing other things. He's got his podcast and he's traveling. He's a busy guy. Radio's hard to do. I'm going to be in that time slot from 2 to 4 Eastern, and then wherever it plays at other odd hours, in some 210 cities, starting November the 24th. So if you've enjoyed the Eric Metaxas show, I've been on the Eric Metaxas show a bazillion times. I'm very humbled and very honored. Salem Media, Dave Centrella, Phil Boyce, Mike Reed, everyone that had input on the decision. Ultimately, it was Big Man Phil that made the decision. But thank you for giving me this opportunity. And starting November the 24th, we're gonna have a daily conversation together. We're gonna take your calls. We're gonna have the best guests on. Best guests are also kind of an enigma, because some people think, oh, the flashiest names. No, sometimes there are people that are actually much smarter about stuff than the famous people are. We're going to get the actual ones that know what they're talking about, and we're going to fill your life with usable knowledge that hopefully will allow you to go about your day as a smarter individual and a better citizen. How bad is that? That's starting November 24th, and I hope you'll check it out. Also, next fall, September, October next year, Italy 2026, Rome, Sorrento, Positano, Capri, Amalfi. You, me, we go together. Now, there's 32 seats on the trip. When they're gone, they're gone. You want info, if you want to get the ebook that shows you where we're going to go, because I just went there with my family this year. We're going to do the exact same trip. You can go to Italy2026.info and find out. Italy2026.info and find out. Italy2026.info for more information on that. All right. So I am very excited about the fact that the election has passed. It was a bloodbath. Nothing happened the way I wanted it to. I didn't want Mamdani to win. He won. That was going to happen. Look, I don't know. I'm going to circle back to that in a second. But I really thought that Jack Ciattarelli was going to do better in New Jersey than he did. Very heartbroken about that. Didn't really understand the Virginia race at all. I don't know why Winsome Sears ever thought being critical of Trump and kind of dogging him when you would need his base to eventually win your election was ever a smart idea. Kind of dumb. And then California, of course, they voted for Prop 250 or Prop 50, whatever it's called. And they are going to absolutely gerrymander the state of California, and they're going to steal House of Representative seats, and it's going to get overturned in court. It'll be tested in court probably immediately. But what a dog-faced pony soldier, to quote Joe Biden. What a dog-faced pony soldier. I don't even know what that means, but it sure is fun to say. What a dog-faced pony soldier Gavin Newsom is. And there's been very few people that have ever said that Gavin Newsom's face was that of a dog-faced pony soldier. But that's my new thing for him. Dog-faced pony soldier, Joe Biden supporter, Gavin Newsom, visited that fresh hell on California, and now you're all going to get to fight it out in court over it. It'll be interesting to see. So it was a bad night. And coming out of Tuesday, I was very glad, and I was telling all my friends, I've told everybody this. I'm so happy that Halloween and the elections are passed. Halloween's my least favorite holiday. It's not really a holiday, but my kids think it is, and they get all the candy. And then always the election is the next week, like just a couple of days after Halloween. So we're done. We're done with the election. We're done with Halloween. And you know what I get to focus on now through the end of the year in terms of my own mental health focus? Giving thanks and the birth of Jesus. And by the way, on November 24th, when we launch that Kevin show Monday through Friday, we're going to spend a lot of time thinking about how we can be thankful and talking about things that are the most important. And it's interesting because we think politics is where everything matters. And it does on a certain level when it comes to human involvement in this life, particularly here in America. We have an unusual, outstanding, historical, exceptional opportunity to weigh in on the future of where our politics goes. There are many people who live on the globe this day who do not have that privilege. But here's another thing that I want you to keep in mind, and it's really important that I think that we do this. It's not eternal. There's nothing lasting about the ups and downs of politics that will go past our lifetimes. At the end of the day, the big picture is that there is a God who cared about you, he cared about you enough to create you, and he cared about you enough to offer you a way to be reconciled to himself. And now we get to think about it all the way through Christmas. Kevin McCullough coming right back. It's That Kevin Show. Beep, straight in. Stay with us.
Kevin McCullough.
Welcome back. It's That Kevin Show, thatkevinshow.com. All the podcasts, everything related, social media, etc. there. We have a ton of fun over there. Go check it out and then stay with us throughout the week. You know that I'm always harping about energy. We got to have more energy. We cannot produce enough energy in the United States right now. And if you don't think that that is true, I would ask you to pull your cell phone out and take a look at every app that's on your cell phone. Every single one of them has an AI component. Try our AI. We'll help you do it better. Everything that is in the palm of your hand has that. And every time you use AI, the amount of energy that you are consuming is way more than you realize. And we haven't even begun to really talk about the very looming big deadline where China has, unleashed all kinds of carbon power plants, one per week for the last year. I think that's their intention for 2026 as well. So how do we catch up in the energy race? What do we do? You know that I'm a big fan of fossil fuels. You know that I will tolerate solar and wind. I do think it's kind of like trying to feed the human body lettuce, though. You can't do it for very long. You will survive for a while, but it doesn't really work. But I've always advocated from the beginning that nuclear is how we have to go. And I think that at some point in time, we're going to have a little, coffee cup sized reactor in every car, and we're not going to have to fill up our car anymore. Now, I could be totally out to lunch, but my next guest probably has some insight on how close we are to it. Mark McKijah. Did I say that right, Mark?
McKijah.
McKijah, okay. It's spelled in a way that makes me question myself, but thank you for helping me. Mark McKijah is the CEO of Eagle Energy Metals, and we were just at a conference that you put on, Mark, and first of all, thank you for doing it. It blew me away in terms of what we are now doing. But you are in a very important position because you're both mining uranium and you're developing small modular reactors. And I want to delve into both. But let's start with the reactors because I get really excited about this. You told me at dinner that Don Jr. was at that in low power mode, one of your SMRs that's about the size of a big rig trailer can power 300 homes for 92 years in the low power mode. That's kind of Star Wars stuff in my mind. How does it work?
Yeah, absolutely. And, these small modular reactors are definitely the future. And they work, it's fully portable. These are Gen 4 reactors. They can't melt down. And yeah, at low power mode, our V-Slim design can work for 92 years. And, that's 300 homes, 0.3 megawatts, and it can go up to 3.3 megawatts. So when you have that kind of power, it's absolutely amazing. And these are liquid metal cooled fast reactors, the Gen 4 reactors, the way that the world has to go. It's nuclear power. You talked about it earlier. Wind and solar just aren't going to be able to get the job done with the way that the power demand is going.
And,
fossil fuels have been with us forever, and they're going to be with us for a long time. But I've always said that until you can put nuclear in place, those can't go anywhere. And if this zero net zero 250 thing is the way of the future, they're going to have to like really accelerate other forms of energy. And I don't see anything on the horizon except nuclear.
That's correct. And we see it from the administration as well. You saw those executive orders that came out in May. The administration wants to get 3 of these SMR technologies to criticality in 2026. And we want to add nuclear as much as we can in this country. It is part of those executive orders. They want to quadruple nuclear energy by 2050.
Is that doable with safer methods than we've done in the past? I mean, here in New York, we all think of, the one that Cuomo shut down. But, when you're using water to cool rods and so forth, it does get clunky and it can be dangerous.
That's right. And, a lot of the existing reactors we have are from a long time ago. And things are getting better in the industry, right? They're just getting safer. And with these SMRs, that's another generation ahead than those Gen 2 traditional reactors that we have in the country right now. So the innovation is coming back to nuclear.
You said that they can't melt down. How does someone watching or listening know that you're telling them the truth on that?
Yeah, so they're passively cooled. So if there was any kind of incidents, they would just turn off and they would just shut down from there. And some of the reactor designs that are out there now, they have the ability to generate auxiliary power. So in the event of, let's say, an earthquake or a full grid outage, they still have power and they can still do those procedures of turning off. And some SMR designs can even be buried underground on seismic bearings. So things like the Fukushima thing, where a natural disaster happened, an earthquake and a tidal wave, these reactors, these new ones, can be put in places where they wouldn't be as affected as those traditional reactors.
Well, and being so much smaller, I think, has to be an advantage as well. So talk to me about what's, where the process is at. You talk about the presidential orders and the possibility of getting a couple or 3 of them online in 2026. I mean, that's still not going to take a bite out of the China AI race. I mean, if we're really talking about ramping up power, they're not doing it clean at all. They're burning coal in those suckers. So the idea that we could, in some way make some headway on that, but how far are we away from being able to do that?
The SMR technology is still a few years out, so there's a bunch of different players in that. So we're still looking at 2030 before some of these other SMR companies begin commercialization. Our design is probably about 10 years out, obviously depending on funding that could be accelerated. But the real game changer is with the traditional reactors. We need more of them. You alluded to China. China is building, we're talking 150 to 200 reactors in the next 10 to 15 years. So they're really going all in on nuclear because they know that the capacity factor of nuclear energy is 92%. Wind is 35, solar is 25. You get the most bang for your buck with nuclear energy. And China's doing this immense build out. And I read somewhere that China's going from 3 terawatts to 8 terawatts in the next 15 years. And in the same time, America is going from 1 terawatt to 2 terawatts. So China's adding 5 America's worth of electricity generation in the next 15 years.
Well, and to take this full circle, if they have that much more power, if you're talking about AI, that all starts to turn into computing, and not just computing, but national defense operations in real time. So if their AI can figure out a weakness in a defense shield faster than we can plug it, like it starts turning into like really, really problematic scenarios very quickly if we don't address that.
Kevin, you can't decouple AI from national security and defense anymore. So it is extremely important that we focus on power because that is the bottleneck.
When we come back, we're going to talk about uranium mining a little bit because your company uniquely is positioned with this SMR technology, but you also are operating a rather remarkable site of uranium here in the U.S. In fact, it may be the biggest, most important one that we have going on. Why that's important, what all it means, we'll get into that with Mark as we come back. But if you want to know more info, it's eagleenergymetals.com and Eagle
eagleenergymetals.com. And Kevin McCullough, very glad to have you with us.
Stick around for more of That Kevin. Next, That Kevin Show with Kevin McCullough. From New York, That Kevin McCullough.
And we're back. It's That Kevin Show, thatkevinshow.com. So grateful to have you with us. eagleenergymetals.com if you want to know anything more about what we're talking about. It is fascinating. And Mark, when I returned from your energy conference last week, my 15-year-old son, who is my chess, Latin, math, science, he's that kid in my house, he just peppered me with questions, so many that I couldn't answer. But he was like, well, what about this? And what about that? One thing I did learn from a couple of days we had with you is that there's a race for all of the stuff that creates this technology, but especially the nuclear power, and uranium is at the core of that. What does the landscape look like in terms of international pursuit of uranium and American pursuit, and where are we in that race, if you will?
Yeah, so globally, the demand for uranium is roughly 200 million pounds per year. And the United States, with 94 reactors, we consume 50 million pounds of uranium per year. But get this, last year we only produced 677,000 pounds.
Whoops.
So under 2% of what we need. Now, half of the uranium we need comes from Canada and Australia, but the other half comes from Russia, Uzbekistan, and Kazakhstan. And I talked about how China's doing a big nuclear build-out right now. They don't produce much uranium out of the ground either. So a lot of that uranium that's from those geopolitically unfriendly places is going to start flowing east rather than west. And that's a bit concerning.
Well, for a lot of obvious reasons, but just to be quite blunt, Putin has not been very cooperative with the last two administrations. And Xi, he's always playing the long game. So there's always, he's always trying to think, 50 to 100 years ahead. Americans tend to get kind of distracted by every squirrel that walks by on the sidewalk, and it's a problem. Talk to us about why what you're doing at Eagle is significant to this equation.
It's around the uranium, right? We spoke about how China is doing this huge nuclear build out, but it's not just China, it's Russia, it's India. So all these other nations realize the importance of power for their AI models and for their innovation. And what we're trying to do here with Eagle is to produce domestic uranium that will go into, American traditional reactors and also these advanced SMRs that are coming out. We know what this power demand that's coming, and we are part of the Western response to that.
Well, brag a little bit. What is your site like? What is it? What can it do?
Yep. So we have the largest mineable measured and indicated uranium resource in the country. So there's over 50 million pounds of unconstrained uranium there. And if you put that into a pit design compliant to the SK 1300 American standards, around 37 million pounds of uranium sitting there. And we also have exploration potential on our site as well. And what I mean by that is that if we do more drilling, we're confident that we'll find more uranium there as well. We have preliminary drill hole data stating where that is. So we want to explore that a bit more and add to our inventory.
And how quickly can that stuff be pulled up and start being put into use?
Yeah, so there's still a lot of regulatory items that we need to address first. There's baseline cultural and environmental studies that we'll need to do, and then into our pre-feasibility studies. So these are detailed engineering studies that go into it, and then along with the permitting process. And we're getting just a significant amount of administrative tailwinds that are going to help on that permitting side of things.
Which is why you need to work quickly. Like, I feel badly that you've only got like 3.5 years to try to, cram this in. But hopefully a new administration will see the value of this, which they really shouldn't they, Mark? This shouldn't be a partisan issue. This is about what's good for the country.
Absolutely. And it's clean power, it's reliable power, it's energy security, it's national security. So it kind of strikes all the themes that any administration should want prioritized.
Well, if people that are watching me living in the New York, New Jersey area this week, you saw with elections why this matters, and there are net zero 250 states that are out there, and we've got to start pushing back on this. We are going to put ourselves into the clutches of our hostile opponents if we do not. And Mark and his team are leading the way. Mark McKijah, thank you for spending some time with us. Eagle Energy Metals, friends, if you want to know more, Eagle Energy Metals, it tells kind of the whole story. But Mark, come back and talk to me some more, because there's a lot more we can learn about this.
Absolutely. I sure will, Kevin. And thank you for having me.
Again, the website is eagleenergymetals.com. Eagle Energy Metals, just write it all out, all one URL, eagleenergymetals.com. And we're going to be talking with Mark's colleague as well, because there is a SPAC that's being put together to help them, advance this in an aggressive way, in a way that we think is going to be good for the country.
Stick around for more of That Kevin. Next, That Kevin Show with Kevin McCullough. From New York, That Kevin McCullough.
Welcome back to That Kevin Show in Times Square. I'm Kevin McCullough. Glad to have you with us. And don't forget, starting November the 24th, look for That Kevin Show Monday through Friday at a radio station near you. If you are a former listener to the Eric Metaxas Show, which I was a guest on all the time, he is off and doing other things now, getting out of the radio side of things, but they have offered it to me, and I'm looking forward to having a daily conversation with you. We're going to take lots of calls and talk about very important things. Dr. Monique Yohanon is back with us from the Independent Women's Forum, one of my favorite groups and one of my favorite people to talk to, because she's so smart. Actually, everybody that's on my show is way smarter than me. That's why I have them on. But Dr. Yohanon, it's good to have you back. We just saw elections this week. None of them went well for the Republicans, and a lot of people speculated that the shutdown was what was causing these losses. I happen to think it's way more nuanced than that, especially in New York and New Jersey, and maybe even to some degree in Virginia. But I'm curious as to your thinking about the shutdown, particularly as it relates to the subsidies. I don't think maybe everyone in the culture understands what they're asking for in the subsidy request, and when you really do understand it, it kind of makes me mad, because when I heard $400,000, wow! But why don't you explain to us what the latest is?
Kevin, thanks so much for having me on. And you're right. I think the Democrats so far have won the messaging on this, but I think when you really do dig down in this, I don't think there's a lot of substance to their case. So let me break it down, I think, from what they're really making the case for. So the original ACA subsidies were for low and middle income people. I have some real problems with the ACA in general, but for right now, that's not changing. But what happened in 2021, so we're in the height of COVID, the Congress decides that they're going to extend the subsidies, so they're going to make things even cheaper for lower and middle income people, and they're going to allow people who are wealthy. And by wealthy, I mean if you make $200,000, if you make $300,000, you're going to be eligible for a subsidy. That leads to 5 million new signups for the ACA. So you do get a small number of wealthy people who sign up. Honestly, when you talk about the people who are going to take the biggest hit to their premiums, it's them. So if you made $200,000, for example, under the old ACA, you would pay $2,000 for your premium. But under the new ACA, you'd save maybe $700, $800 a month. So huge savings for them, right? But for the people who were poorer, and by that I mean they were right at the federal poverty level,
right?
There were a lot of signups for them. But here's the interesting thing to me about this. Most of the people who signed up were in states that didn't do the Medicaid expansion, and they actually were people who were well enough to be working full time. And a lot of them were younger than 30. So when you put all of this together, really these signups were for people who, yes, they were able to get insurance for the first time. So there is a market for people among working poor and lower middle class people. There is a market for this. But here's the thing. The insurance that they're signing up for with the ACA, it's really comprehensive insurance. It's very expansive. The insurance arguably that they need is going to be a much more basic plan. So really, put it even more simply, yes, there was an expansion for some people in lower income groups, but it forced them to buy very, very comprehensive plans. Now, you could say maybe that's a good thing, except what did that do to insurance rates? Because these are young, healthy people, by and large, who were brought in. Insurance rates went to more than double the rate of inflation.
Wow.
And that's because these subsidies are going straight to the insurance companies and they have no transparency. So there are a few moving
This really
parts
isn't, like, the more you describe it, the more I'm saying, but this sounds like all of the complaints that Obama and company had against the private insurance industry when they were trying to basically bankrupt it. You still got the same kind of crappy corruption that, like, why aren't they investigating things like site neutral payment or things that actually would create savings for the consumers and bring the overall cost of all healthcare down across the board, Dr. Yohanon? Because when you throw out this thing, well, I know what special interests are benefiting from these subsidies, and it's people that don't need the help.
It's
right. The hospitals, it's the people, anybody that's receiving the government money, because under Biden, everybody was kind of told that money was free and it didn't matter. So they just think that it's just an endless supply. That hurts every working person in the country. And the fact that the Democrats don't seem to see that, and they seem to be saying that they want to help their wealthy friends with these subsidies and not the actual people that are now cut off from all of the programs by shutting the government down, it doesn't seem to make sense in any fashion.
Kevin, you're so right. And, when you look at the original estimates for Obamacare, the idea was that insurance rates wouldn't go up because there would be competition among plans. But the reality is most of the places in the country don't have competition among plans. So when you think about what would make this better, if insurance companies were competing against each other to provide plans, there would be lower rates. In the places where that competition is happening, we do see lower rates. But the reality is we have no competition right now. There are antitrust laws. They're not being enforced. To your point, we have no transparency about why prices are going up. We don't, for example, have any ability to shop for care when you talk about site neutral care. So there's a transparency law that's on the books now. There's a bill that Senator Cassidy had proposed that prior to this shutdown had bipartisan support. So we could, for example, really try to use this opportunity. And, I hate that the Democrats did this because there are real working people who are suffering as a result of this. But the reality is, if we're going to talk about these subsidies, at a minimum, we should get something in return. We should get transparency. We should get enforcement of antitrust so there's better competition. But let me go a step further. President Trump, in his first term in 2018, did try to see if we could have some alternatives to the ACA. He tried to have some expansion of association plans, which basically would allow for catastrophic insurance. So I've got a 22-year-old son. Do you think he needs the same health care plan that I have?
Stick around for more of That Kevin. Next, That Kevin Show with Kevin McCullough.
I ain't bigger.
Can you tell me who the No Kings protests are about so I can get back to giving burgers to children? I can tell you, but first you're probably wondering who I am and what this place is. This is the National Socialist Party of Burgers, and I'm Martin Luther Communist Jr., the long-lost twin brother of Martin Luther King Jr. As a child, I was separated from my family and raised by a pack of socialist lesbians. They taught me that kings are evil and to dedicate my life to convert them to communists. Wait, you've been doing this your whole life? Are there really that many kings? Oh, please, open your eyes. Kings are everywhere. Perhaps it's best if I show you my hall of former kings. Here we have renowned writer Stephen Communist. And here we have the famous giant gorilla, Communist Kong. And this is the garbage NBA team, the Sacramento Communists. And that's just a start. There's at least 50 more I could tell you about. But if you're focused on kings, then why is everybody protesting the president? He's not a king at all. Because we pay CNN to tell people he is. You see, people with extreme political beliefs will believe anything you say and never look it up themselves to see if it's true. Why protest the president? Because I had a dream that one day people won't be judged by their actions or the value they bring to society, but by a government who tells them merit-based systems are wrong. If you're not a communist, you're a king. And if I take the president's place, then I can make it mandatory to be a communist. But if everyone is a communist, then nobody will get to have their yummy burgers. I'm going to tell on you. I'm afraid I can't let you do that, Burger King. I can't allow you to expose me like that. The only person who can stop this now is America's sweetheart. But I suppose this is where your journey ends. Any last words? Yeah! Can you kiss your mummy with that mouth? Look out, Burger King! I'm having a heart attack. I guess that's the problem with burgers. If you eat too many of them, you get fat and die. Under communism, it's impossible to be obese.
Somewhere in the bowels of the city that never sleeps,
Kevin McCullough, radio host with Salem Media,
is a man also not sleeping.
Syndicated radio talk show host Kevin McCullough.
And that guy would like a word with you.
Many of you know him as Voxtradamus.
Of course that Kevin show is going to be great. The only thing that could be greater, of course, would be that Donald show. We don't have that, so we have that Kevin show.
Featuring the music of Dick Tunney and the Dream in Color Orchestra. Still to come, Jill Homan talks tariffs and SCOTUS. Brenda Hafera with woke history and new travel. Sketch comedy from Al Berry and Nick Peterson. And Cody Johnson returns with a brand new song to the spotlight. And now from Times Square, where Mayor-elect Mamdani seeks to rule New York with an iron fist, calling it New Yorkistan and insisting that Lady Liberty be respected with her proper pronouns. Here's that cover!
For a Cyber Desk weekend, I'm Kevin McCullough. Hello, America. Welcome to the weekend, what's left of it. After another week of government brilliance, lawmakers in Washington have reportedly budged toward ending government shutdowns forever. That's right, the people who can't pass a budget are now vowing never to not pass one again. Which, if you follow the logic, means the era of pretending to do their jobs may also be over. Critics warn this could usher in the dangerous era of accountability. But fear not, Congress has already formed a bipartisan committee to study how not to make progress. Meanwhile, at a college near you, and they're all the same now, a student was arrested for flipping over a Turning Point USA table. Apparently, it's his hobby. Just days before, charged in a similar anti-consumer meltdown, psychologists are calling it chronic tolerance intolerance syndrome. Symptoms include loud shouting, property damage, and a complete inability to define the word fascism. Over in New Jersey, federal agents arrested a man suspected of plotting ISIS-style attacks with swords. Authorities say he fantasized about killing Jews, which sounds horrifying, And then you remember he's from a state where people are already fantasizing about escaping taxes. New Jersey officials say they're investigating whether he acted alone or with a support group on Reddit called Sword Guys for Allah. Meanwhile, Congress decided to stage a fire match. House GOP civil war broke out over a bill to defund New York City. Apparently, some Republicans want to punish the city for electing a literal socialist mayor, while others worry it sets a bad precedent since half of them live in D.C., which already defunded itself decades ago. And speaking of the Big Apple, New York is reportedly preparing to resist a potential federal crackdown by President Trump, which is adorable because resisting Trump is the only economic engine left in Manhattan. At this point, the tourism slogan should just read, "Come for Broadway, stay for the indictments." But wait, hope may be on the horizon. A Florida sheriff has invited any NYPD officers who lose their jobs under Mayor Mamdani to move south and join his force, because nothing says law and order like trading bagels for alligators. Plus, in Florida, when someone says stand your ground, they mean it. In lighter news, or at least shark-infested news, a popular tourist beach has gone on an alert after a shark attack left swimmers shaken. Witnesses described the shark as looking hungry and mildly Democrat. Authorities have since installed new signs reading, "Enter water, elect yourself at lunch." On the sports beat, redemption is back in season. Former MLB great Darryl Strawberry, once known for home runs and hard times, has been pardoned by President Trump. The two men reportedly bonded over faith, forgiveness, and a shared love of baseball caps with slogans on them. Strawberry, now a Christian and sober, says he's grateful to be free, which coincidentally is exactly how Yankee fans felt this October. Finally, comedian Jon Stewart says Democrats shouldn't get too cocky after their latest election wins this week because the party is, quote, still a mess. Translation, even the man who made fun of them for a living can't find new material. They just keep writing punchlines. For Assignment Desk Weekend, I'm Kevin McCullough.
Get in, loser, we're getting rich. Clearly, the fastest get-rich scheme outside of the lottery is becoming a politician. And great news, experience not needed. If you can make a Jack and Coke, you can vote on policies that affect our nation. Heck, most people voted for Trump because he had no political experience. So, to get you on the fast track to monster trades, book deals, and speaking fees just like the political pros, I've given you an option of one of the following trusty mentors to pick from. Is trusty the right word? I don't know. First up, needs no introduction. With an unheard of 71% return on her portfolio last year and 65% return the year before, it's the Italian bull, Nancy Pelosi. With Nancy, you'll unlock the secret to receiving company information before anyone else does. And then, completely unrelated, you'll learn what stocks to buy and sell. When you sell all your stocks right before lawsuits drop, that's a sketchy.
Amazing.
You're going to love our next mentor option. He's former congressman and former inmate George Santos. Working closely with George, you'll learn how to create the illusion of being someone else and open up credit cards in their name. What a great deal. George also offers courses on how to wire other people's money to yourself. It's kind of a digital sticky fingers program. Your next option is a combo deal. From tequila sunrises to Teslas and skyrises, it's Congresswoman AOC and her former chief of staff. Together, they will team up to teach you how to funnel millions of political contributions right into your own companies, for strategic consulting. Here's some free consulting. Move to Venezuela if you want socialism that bad. Anyway, as a bonus, she'll show you how to funnel those PAC funds straight to your boyfriend as well. Hey, are you getting older and fear you won't be able to retire? Then we have the guy for you, Jack. Mentor Joe claims he was worth just $24,000 in his mid-60s. Now he's worth $10 million. How does he do it from a beach chair? Well, we don't really know, but what we do know is that this package includes frequent trips to China. So pack the passport. Our next mentor with a miraculous 92x on their net worth, the Clintons. Billary will personally teach you how to line those pockets from lucrative speaking engagements with a track record of getting anywhere from $250,000 to $750,000 per speech. The Clintons will walk you step by step on how to negotiate those prices and how to deal with people who won't pay those prices. Side note, if you're a female, third party must be present. Our last mentor is in fact our least popular for tips on growing wealth while in office, simply for the fact that his strategy was to forego his salary. Then again, who needs a salary when you live rent-free in half the country's heads?
Ready or not, we'll be right back. That Kevin. Now, back to That Kevin Show with Kevin McCullough.
Welcome back to That Kevin Show, thatkevinshow.com for all things needed, like podcasts, TV episodes, social media, all that stuff. It's all at thatkevinshow.com. Just a reminder, starting November 24th, Monday through Friday, 20 more bonus hours of That Kevin Show coming your way to stations near you. 200 cities nationwide, adding them to the family. Thank you very much, Salem Media, for that. My next guest is the America First Policy Institute Director for Trade and Economy Policy. Jill Homan is her name. No relation to Tom Homan, except in spirit and in mission. Jill, welcome. It's good to have you.
It's great to be with you, Kevin. Thank you.
We are going to talk about tariffs because tariffs, in my estimation, have been one of the greatest things that Donald Trump has unleashed on the world, and he's achieved world peace. He's balanced the trade imbalances with some of the nations that are most hostile to us, and he's holding people accountable in ways that have not been in years past. And yet, there is this constitutional question that has seemed to rise all the way to the Supreme Court. What are we arguing about? Who is bringing the argument and why?
So thank you for having me. And what we have just heard are the oral arguments, and what the Supreme Court is looking at is, and it's actually really been drilled down to whether or not the president has tariff authority, which he's asserted under a law called IEPA. It gives him emergency powers to regulate importation. And so what we assert at AFPI, we had filed an amicus brief, so a friend of a court brief, which says that he does in fact have the authority to regulate importation, and that regulating importation includes tariffs. Because if you can stop the importation of products into your country, then you should be able to do something that is a lesser power, which is to just charge a fee associated with it. Similarly, what we assert is that the revenue associated with the tariff is the byproduct of it, and it's not necessarily the goal, because as you know, Kevin, the goal of tariffs, as you outlined, is to provide the president with a tool as he negotiates these strong trade deals with our trading countries. And these trade deals have included reciprocal tariffs, so having this fee, this amount that another country could pay. But what they've also included is putting in reducing non-tariff barriers so that American companies can sell more abroad and grow jobs and grow companies in America. And they've also included investment companies so that we have countries and others have the ability to invest and buy more American products. And again, that reshoring of jobs and reshoring of investment to this country will grow jobs as well as grow American companies and really benefit all Americans.
It doesn't make any sense to me that anyone that is an American would have an objection to what you just described, because in a sense, it's national security. In a sense, it's national economic policy, and it's all designed and benefited towards the American consumer and citizen and user. So who would bring an objection to this, and what are their basis for arguments?
So what I'd really assert is that what we're seeing, and as you know, is our country's been taken advantage of. And so you have what I would say are, free traders that have really pushed forward this idea that it's okay for our country to be a consumption economy, to be based on a consumption economy, for foreign countries to own U.S. assets and for jobs to be shipped overseas. And we saw that when China was admitted to the WTO and given most favored nation status. Hundreds of thousands, and we, by some calculations, 5 million jobs were lost in this country. But some think that's okay. And some think that a U.S. economy that's based on consumption is okay. And we don't. And we don't think it's a safe thing. We think it's vital to our national security that we need to bring down $1 trillion trading deficit where we're at the mercy of many adversarial countries.
Well, I want to go back to what I asked.
Yes,
so
please.
You're laying all this out very nicely and neatly. But I really want to point out that the people that are opposing this, again, if the posture is that the president is doing this for the protection of Americans via national security in one sense, national economic security in another sense, national job protection and advancement in another sense. I mean, some of these tariffs have caused countries to say, okay, we'll build a plant in America and put Americans to work. Whoever is opposing this, whatever these shadow groups are, wherever their funds are coming from, and I'd be interested in knowing, do we know if there are any foreign monies behind this challenge? Because it seems to me you can't be pro-American for the economy, for jobs and national security and oppose what the president's done. You may just hate the orange man. That might be your position. But that doesn't mean that you have the right to injure Americans, American workers, and Americans' national security.
And that's very well said. And I think there's some folks who are opposed to this position who are really, quote unquote, free traders. But those are the ones that President Trump has really pointed out that have enabled our country to get into this horrific position of being in $1 trillion trade deficit. I can't speak to where the funds come from. Because the plaintiff in the case is a small to medium-sized business, so clearly there's support that that is coming in and providing legal support. But setting that aside, what we're proud to do at America First Policy Institute is to stand up for what we think is good public policy. And stand up with the president on this important issue. We're one of the few organizations that have done it. And to your point, the trade deals that he's negotiating, and for example, in Asia alone, he went on a trip to Asia and came back with more than 4 trade frameworks that included close to $2 trillion of announced investment. And if those $2 trillion, let's just say they came over the course of 10 years, what you'd be talking about are $200 billion worth of investment into this country to stand up manufacturing plants, to hire Americans, and to grow jobs in this country. And what that would translate to by using academic studies is 1 million jobs a year. And so these aren't gig economy jobs. These are electricians, welders. These are good paying jobs for Americans. And what we really should be talking about, and the other side should be talking with us, is how are we going to train and how are we going to hire so many people when Trump's trade deals come into effect? That's the real conversation that we should be having. And instead, the president is needing to go to the Supreme Court, and the attorneys representing the president need to go to the Supreme Court and to fight this battle, which is not the question and not what we should be focused on right now, which should really be about, let's finding these Americans, training these Americans for all the jobs that are going to be coming to this country.
I couldn't agree with you more. Jill Homan of the America First Policy Institute. And what I'm about to say is Kevin McCullough saying it, not AFPI and not Jill Homan. But these free traders are spelled Traitors. Just something to think about. Anyway, Jill, always good to see you. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you, Kevin. Appreciate the opportunity.
Kevin McCullough coming right back from New York. back. It's good to have you on this. Hold on one second. Should have taken care of that before the break. During the break, sometime else. Anyway, welcome back. Good to have you. Always pleased to be with you on the weekend. We've got a big show still straight ahead. So much fun, including great sketch comedy this week. The Al Berry animated feature, the Babylon Bee sketch. They're really good. Very timely. I'm just going to put it that way. So stick around. We've got that plus more new music spotlight, everything coming up. And we're just grateful to have you here. All right. So here's the thing. We started the year asking you to jump on board and help us with a cause that we've asked you to help us with every year that I've done this. To liberate human beings from slavery. To say to those that have had every right in the world taken away from them and say to them, you know what? You're not forgotten. You're not unloved. You're not. You don't have to suffer this abuse anymore. We are not going to continue to allow the things that you've experienced and suffered to go unmet. And I'm grateful for the dozens of you that have taken that step with us, because now there are dozens of human lives, real people just like you and me, who were in slavery and now have either just been liberated or are about to be. My friends at Christian Solidarity International there's always another liberation just around the corner. So it's if you gave earlier in the year, those people have been liberated. But here, as we begin to close out the year, there's another batch of people that will get their freedom and start their life brand new. And for $250, you can give them everything they need to start their life over again. These are women that were taken during the Sudan Civil War. The world largely forgot about them as they were toiling away in slavery. They have been mistreated, abused, sexually raped, assaulted, beaten, cursed at, told that they are lower than, there's not even an English equivalent to describe the way they are spoken to. Some of them are disallowed from speaking the entire time they are in slavery. So imagine, just take one of those, for example, and imagine that young woman coming to the liberation camp at the border of South Sudan and being able to, first of all, relax, because no one's going to come up and try to rape her or assault her or, abuse her. To be able to truly rest, to be able to truly eat. Many of these slaves, most of them, have been starved nearly the entire time that they've been in slavery. And then for the ones that have been disallowed from speaking, to be able to tell with their own voice their human story to a CSI staffer. To be able to have that staffer put the story in writing so that that former slave can have it for their own keepsake. Getting their Christian name back after many of them have been forced to take on Muslim names. Now, they can never recover from the horror that they've been given in slavery. Once a slave master has forced them to mutilate their own genitals, you can't go back and fix that. But friends, we can make such a meaningful life for these women. They have been completely abused on every side of life. And for just $250 out of our pocket, we can give them a brand new life. So what happens is they go to the recovery camp. They get to be there as long as they need. If they need medical care, if they need to be bulked up with some nutrition and some food because they've been undernourished for years, if they just need to rest. When they are kind of whole at the camp, then they are given their supplies, which include the bag of hope. That's a year's worth of food, a year's worth of seed to plant a next crop of food, utensils for cleaning and fishing and cooking, tarps, blankets, other things to help them withstand the weather, and a she-goat that's all their own so that they can build a little business off of the milk and cheese and some food for themselves. And then the CSI staff helps them find where they were originally taken from, so their home area, if that's still in existence. And if it's not, then CSI helps place them with communities of former slaves who are all recovering together, who are all survivors of the trauma together. Friends, it's so simple, and yet it makes such a difference. For Christmas, I would love to give these women a homecoming. 888-342-1010, 888-342-1010, 888-342-1010. Please help us now.
Stick around for more of That Kevin. Next, That Kevin Show with Kevin McCullough. From New York, That Kevin McCullough.
Welcome back. Kevin McCullough, That Kevin Show, thatkevinshow.com, and That Kevin Show on all social media. And if you haven't heard, starting November 24th, everywhere that you formerly heard Eric Metaxas at, you'll be getting the daily version of That Kevin Show there as well. Very excited about that. I'm very excited to welcome my next guest because I didn't know the project she was working on, but once I found out about it, I couldn't stop talking about it. Brenda Hafera is joining us from the Heritage Foundation, and she works in the American Studies department over there. It's a big mouthful, the center. Research fellow in the Heritage Foundation's B. Kenneth Simon Center for American Studies. But Brenda, it's a joy to have you here. Thanks for coming on.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Now, I do in my spare time a little bit of travel, and I write about travel for Salem Media Group nationwide. We have about 1.6 million people that subscribe to our weekly magazine that get my little insights and tidbits on places to go. So when you launched this new historical sites guide, it got my attention right away, because I love history. I love traveling to see history. And now, in honor of the 250th birthday of the country, you guys have launched something that's really special. First of all, before you tell us what it is and how it works, what was the impetus for why you decided to create it?
Yes. So the impetus was, I think a lot of people have gone to our historic sites in recent years and noticed that sometimes some things have changed, that the exhibits, the tours, sometimes distort history. They've gotten a little bit ideological. And those are just the things.
Can we say that some of them have been wokeified?
Yeah, to that degree. James Madison's Montpelier does not include any exhibits on James Madison these days. And so that's a problem. And so people are seeing that. So that's one part of it. But then there are the unknown unknowns of no one can be an expert in all areas and aspects of American history. And so there are distortions that you might not even notice because you're going to a historic site to learn. So that was kind of the problem that we identified.
And the solution then became what?
The solution is called the Heritage Guide to Historic Sites. So this is an online interactive map that pinpoints historic sites all across the country, and they're all notable sites that are significant, they're worth going to, and then it offers an evaluation and a grade, A, B, or C, based on accuracy and comprehension, ideological bias, and proportionality. And we've sent people whose backgrounds match the site themselves. So, for example, a poet reviewed Edgar Allan Poe's house, which brings a unique perspective to the guide, but also helps with that accountability piece.
So in the process of doing this, did you guys learn things about American history that you didn't know before?
Oh, I absolutely did. This is one of my favorite parts of this project. So the positive part of this project is we want American families to go to historic sites to celebrate America 250 this summer. We're coming up on the 250th birthday of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. So you should go because you're going to learn a lot. One thing I learned, for example, Noah Webster's house, of Webster dictionary fame, the evaluator emphasized the importance of language for forming the American culture, which I thought was such a great point and very interesting.
Well, and it's one of the things that has found its way into the modern debate. You know, should there be an official language for the U.S.?
And if so, what is it? I remember ridiculously back in the early 90s, Jesse Jackson pressing for Ebonics to be certified as a language spoken in the U.S. And I'm like, no. And the concept of a nation really being defined by a few simple things, which is a shared culture, a shared language, and a shared border, is something that has come into greater focus, especially in the Trump era.
And then there are things like the term responsibility was really kind of developed during the founding era. It was used in the Federalist Papers. It was used during the Constitutional Convention. This idea of personal responsibility, which is very much a part of who we are, and then that representatives should be responsive to the people. And so you can kind of see how these words, what they come to mean and what that says about us, which I think is really interesting.
I always thought it was interesting that from the kind of the British monarchical system, you had this, new country born, and there's always, when you talk about like the royal family, there's always this like sense of duty and sense of decorum and honor and responsibility, if you will, that they held to the people. But we kind of adopted that in the American system as it being our duty to one another to be personally responsible.
I think that's right. It's a new kind of country that's built on individual dignity, right? And the rights and responsibilities that we have. And it's not only the rights that I have, but then I have the responsibility, the duty to respect your rights.
Right.
Those things are reciprocal, and we come together as one people and make these declarations and these promises to one another.
This is so cool, and you didn't just do the colonial era East Coast kind of Washington to Trenton to New York to Boston kind of corridor. You've done nationwide historical sites that are significant. What other eras do we know things about?
Yes, so it includes all eras. Right now we've launched sites in the 13 original colonies. We're planning on launching the rest. The map will include at least one site in every state, and we're looking at early next year to have those. So again, families will be able to plan their summer vacations to go to historic sites to celebrate our anniversary. And so it includes all eras and different aspects of American history. It includes battlefields, presidential homes, literature and art, places like Mark Twain's house, heroic figures. It's all of it. It's meant to tell the American story as a whole.
Well, 250 years is a big piece of history to tell. I'm assuming that you cover the Great Wars as well, the attack on Pearl Harbor, even the World Trade Center and the modern era?
Yes, it includes all of that. And I will note we're planning on launching about 135 sites in February or so. That's only kind of scratching the surface. We couldn't include everything. And to that end, there's a form on the website where the American people can go in and say, a site has changed since you were last there.
Oh, wow.
Here's another site that you should go to that we recommend, or we disagree with what you have to say. So we want to kind of crowdsource it.
Stick around for more of That Kevin. Next, That Kevin Show with Kevin McCullough.